The RTX 3070 Ti and 3080 Ti are right around the corner, but are you actually going to be able to buy them? Let's talk about it. Before that, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss another video. Alright, so yeah, we are really close to these video cards being released, guys, but before we talk about the whole release date as well as the stock situation surrounding the 3070 Ti and 3080 Ti, let's really quickly here go over the specs and what that could potentially mean for the performance, and then we'll get into those two other things. So, first of all, starting off with the RTX 3080 Ti, what we're looking at here is about 10,240 shaders according to a leak from videocards.com. Also, it should have a base clock of 1365 megahertz and a boost clock of 1665 megahertz, which is a little bit lower than not only the RTX 3090 but also the RTX 3080. However, this may actually allow it to get slightly higher overclocks, but we'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. Now, in terms of the VRAM, it's exactly half of what you find on the RTX 3090, coming in at 12 gigabytes here, and it should be running at 19 gigabits per second on a 384-bit bus. So essentially what this means here is that you're looking at about 2% fewer shaders and 2% less memory bandwidth in the RTX 3090, and in all honesty, guys, this is probably going to be just as fast as the RTX 3090, and in some cases it may actually be even faster, because what we're looking at here is not only will this have resizable bar out of the box, whereas the RTX 3090 is going to require a BIOS flash to enable resizable bar, so it could have a small performance advantage there depending on what titles you play, but on top of this, there is a possibility for more refined silicon to be in the RTX 3080 Ti when compared at least to the RTX 3090, depending on what the power limits of this card are, which it looks like the Founders Edition model is going to be 320 watts. We'll have to see what happens with those AIB models, but then on top of that, we also have 12 gigabytes less of memory, which could lead to less power draw, which could allow for the core to get more of that power if it does have the same amount of power draw on the AIB models when you compare to the RTX 3090. And then finally, since this GPU is coming out a lot later than the RTX 3090, there is a potential for slightly better silicon. But now let's go ahead and talk about the specs of the RTX 3070 Ti. So the 3070 Ti, again, according to videocards.com, should have around 6,144 shaders, 8 gigabytes of GDDR6X, which I know some people are going to be a little bit disappointed by that, and we're hoping for 16 gigabytes, so there is a possibility that could come in the future, but it looks like for now we're only looking at 8 gigabytes, although with it being GDDR6X running at 19 gigabits per second on a 256-bit bus, you're looking at a much higher bandwidth than the RTX 3070, coming in at 608 gigabytes per second compared to the 448 gigabytes per second on the regular RTX 3070. So yeah, the 3070 Ti in terms of performance is probably going to be a little bit closer to the RTX 3080, but you know, overall it's probably not going to be a whole lot faster than the 3070, because again, with only 6,144 CUDA cores compared to the 5,888 on the RTX 3070 Vanilla Edition, well, it's not really going to have a whole lot of extra performance unless it's being memory bandwidth limited. But now that we know about the specs and the potential performance of both the RTX 3070 Ti and the 3080 Ti, now let's go ahead and talk about the release date, and then we'll end it on what I believe the stock levels of these cards are going to be like. So in terms of the release date, now this information comes from the website HKEPC, and apparently the 3070 Ti is going to be releasing in early June, so that's actually not too far away, so that's definitely going to be exciting for a lot of those people who have been waiting for a slightly faster RTX 3070. And then for the 3080 Ti, this one's actually really close. Apparently this is going to be coming out on May 25th according to the HKEPC leak. However, there has been an updated release date where according to an IT Home Forums post, it's going to be announced on May 18th and then released on May 26th. And then on top of that, I actually received an email from someone that apparently at least one AIB model is going to be releasing their cards on May 30th. So either way, it looks like sometime between May 25th and May 30th, you should get a chance to buy an RTX 3080 Ti. And speaking of a chance to buy, let's go ahead and talk about what your chances look like. So with the RTX 3080 Ti, in terms of its stock and availability, I do think you are going to have a pretty decent chance here, and here's why. So the RTX 3080 Ti has been delayed many times at this point, and you know, they have actually gone ahead and taken some of those 3080 Ti dies and turned them into RTX 3090s. However, I do think they actually have a decent amount of these that have been sitting on shelves ready to launch for a long time, and I think that they've been kind of just stocking up on these things as much as they can so they can have kind of a big blowout release. And in fact, on top of that, I think you'll probably see a release of other cards on that same day. They're probably going to try and go for just a huge release on that day if they can. So honestly, even if you're not looking for a 3080 Ti, because it is going to be very expensive, remember the RTX 3080 Ti is probably going to have an MSRP of $999 $1,299 US, and realistically, the AIB models, you're going to be lucky to find one for even $1,200. They're probably going to be more like $1,200 to $1,500 US, and the 3070 Ti is probably going to be a little bit closer to $600. And again, the AIB partner cards are going to be a little bit higher than that. But in any case, even if you're not looking for 3080 Ti, considering that there's likely going to be other cards releasing on that same day during, say, Best Buy drops or whatnot, well then yeah, it's probably going to be a good idea to keep your eyes out on the launch day of the 3080 Ti to see what cards you can possibly get. But in any case, like I mentioned earlier, since this thing has been delayed for a long time and they've likely been stocking up on this card, I think the launch is actually going to be pretty decent. And then on top of that, the other reason why I believe the 3080 Ti launch is actually going to be pretty decent is that, you know, not only have I seen what appears to be an increase in supply of GPUs overall, but on top of that, the 3080 Ti is probably going to have pretty decent yields because the RTX 3090 does appear to have pretty decent yields. It seems like there's a lot more RTX 3090s available than RTX 3080s, or at least that's the way it appears. So I would guess that the yields for the 3090s is actually pretty decent. However, I do guess that there's probably going to be a lot of 3090s that just barely don't make the cut, in which case, you know, Nvidia is going to rather sell you a $1,000 MSRP card than a $700 MSRP card. So yeah, I'm guessing a lot of those potential cards that were getting turned into 3080s are likely now going to be turned into 3080 Ti's. So in one way, it's potentially bad news for people who are looking for 3080s, but then on the other hand, for those people who are looking for 3080 Ti's, I think this is actually really good news for you. So overall, yeah, I do think the supply of the 3080 Ti is going to be pretty decent, and honestly, this may actually end up being the best launch that we've seen out of any card in the 30 series lineup so far. So yeah, it's definitely good news for you guys who are looking for the 3080 Ti. But now let's go ahead and talk about the 3070 Ti, because I think the news here is going to be a little bit less exciting. Now, there's probably going to be less people who are interested in the 3070 Ti in a gaming standpoint, because it's essentially just a slightly faster 3070, and it's probably going to be more expensive. You know, who knows, maybe it will come in at the same MSRP. However, I honestly don't think there's any reason for Nvidia to do that. It's likely going to come in at around $600 US, but even with probably less gamers being excited for the 3070 Ti, since it only has a 8GB version that's been leaked so far, but I do think that this card's going to be actually very useful for the mining community. So I think a lot of miners are going to be looking for this card. And the reason why I say that is because the 3070 Ti has a really good memory bandwidth. So if GPU mining is still going strong, you're definitely going to be fighting really hard to get the 3070 Ti. But hey, that's just what I think. Do you think that the 3080 Ti is going to be the best launch ever, or do you think that it's going to be the worst? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and of course, I'll see you in the next video. If you made it to the end of the video, be sure to drop a like. Every time you do so, AMD and Nvidia get more stock. Also, if you want to see more, click here. You won't be disappointed.